Assalamu alaikum. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wasallam. This is not in the normal sequence, this is just another electrical storm in the brain. I was just busy reading Surah Al-Zumar, and it talks about the concept of sleep and death and what happens when you sleep and the soul is taken away. So just very briefly, this is Surah Al-Zumar, chapter 39. And I'll just very briefly read in English verse number 42, and this is what it says. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah fully takes away the souls of the people at the time of their death, and of those who do not die in their sleep. That means the soul is taken away two times, once at death, and every night when you sleep the soul is taken away. Then he withholds those on whom he had decreed death and sends the others back up to an appointed term. Surely in this there are signs for a people who ponder. Now, just to try and get an understanding of this, that the soul is taken away every night. And I was trying to get to understand this concept, and I've tried to look for an answer, but some of the research books that I've looked into don't really give a clear explanation. I'm sure the ulama and the scholars know the answers, but I've looked in some books of tafsir and I'm not really happy. There's just a few lines of explanation as to what has happened. And traditionally the answers that I've come across are like this, as follows: that we have the body is in red, and then we have the soul. So the traditional explanation which is given is that at night, the first way is that when the soul is removed from the body permanently, when Malak al-Maut comes, there's nothing you can do about it. You're dead and it's gone. It's the end of the story. So the ulama explain, or some of the books that I've read, to try and explain what happens at night. Okay, the soul is taken away at night. Why don't you die? Okay, and the traditional explanation, which I'm not particularly happy with, is that astaghfirullah, I'm not a scholar, so this is just my own assessment, is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the soul at night, this yellow part is the connection. That means the soul is still connected to the body. Okay, so the soul is only partially removed. This is the traditional explanation that I found in whatever sources I've gone through. I'm not saying I've done an exhaustive search of it. I'm sure there's other explanations. But what I have a problem with is that the verse of the Quran does not say that Allah takes the soul only partially. Okay, the verse clearly says Allah fully takes away the souls. Fully, the full soul is gone. So I cannot understand why the explanation is given that no, the soul is still connected and is only partially removed. This doesn't make sense to me. So I've given my own understanding of this from a medical point of view and from an Islamic point of view. Okay, so this is the traditional explanation, that at night the soul is taken away but it's still connected. But I have a problem with this because the Quran clearly says that Allah fully takes the soul out. And so why don't we die? All right, so we need to answer that question. So this is my assessment. That this is what the traditional explanation is. My assessment is this: that the point we are missing is that there's a component that we have forgotten, and that's the blue component I'm putting in there. So my explanation is that there's a body and there's a soul, but in between there's the breath. Okay, we mustn't forget the breath. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam, this piece of clay made of sand and water, clay came to life when Allah breathed His spirit into Adam alayhi salam. This breath is very important, and that is why in the Sufi and the various tariqas they talk about who, the breath, Allah who. This who is the breath. So I don't accept this traditional explanation that the soul is only partially taken out. I say no. We need to introduce this component of the breath. This breath is very important, and that's the key. That why we are alive, when the soul is taken out, we don't die. It's because we need to understand that the body is made up of body, the soul, and the breath. Right. So now let's look at it very briefly. So this is what happens when you're awake. When you are awake, I hope you can see that. Okay. Right. When you are awake, you have the body, you have your breath, and you have the soul. So you have body and your soul and your breath. That means the breath is important because your breathing gives you oxygen to the body. The heart pumps oxygen to the brain and the rest of the body, so you remain alive. From a physiological and anatomical point of view, the breath is important. The breath gives you oxygen. Without oxygen, within 3 minutes, the body starts decomposing. Okay, so the soul is there. So when you are awake, you have the soul, you have your breathing, and you have your body. So when you are sleeping, the reason why you don't die is that when you are sleeping is that you have your body, but you have your breathing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now the soul is not there when you are sleeping. So in your sleep, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken the soul away. The soul then goes to another dimension, which is called the world of the dreams, the realm of the dreams. It's another reality. And that's where the soul goes, and you have these various dreams. Some are good dreams, some are not so good dreams, and some are very, very clear dreams. And that is 1/40th of Nubuwah. Okay, that is the only thing that's left of Nubuwah, are these beautiful clear dreams. So the reason why you don't die when the soul is taken at night is because even though the soul is gone, and I'm saying that this is, I'm not agreeing with this explanation that the soul is still connected. No, I'm saying the soul is completely taken out. But the reason why you are not dead is because you are still breathing. The ruh, the breath of Allah is still in the body. That breath has not been taken out. This is what gives you life. Right. But what happens at the time of death when Malakul Maut comes? When Malakul Maut comes, Malakul Maut then, you see, when you're alive, you have your body, your breath, and the soul. When Malakul Maut comes, Malakul Maut takes your soul and he takes your breath away. When your breath is gone and your soul is gone, and you're only left with the body, that's called a permanent death. So in sleep, so when you're awake, you have three things. You have your body, you have your breath, and you have your soul. When you're sleeping, you have your body and you have your breath, but you don't have a soul. When you die, you're only left with the body, but your breathing has gone and your soul has gone. Okay, I hope that clarifies it very, very simply. That's number 3. Okay. So medically, what happens when you're doing CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, the patient has gone into coma, what happens? So this is what happens when a patient goes into coma. Okay, when a patient goes into a coma and the breathing stops, then it's the same as if the patient is asleep. Okay, because in that particular case, when a patient is in a coma and you're trying to resuscitate that patient, then coma is the same as asleep. The soul is taken away. And the reason why the soul is taken away, because when you are sleeping or when you are in a coma, in a medical coma, whether it's a medically induced coma or it's a traumatic coma, the point is that the malaika, the angels, stop writing. The pen stops moving. Your deeds are no longer recorded because the soul is then with Allah. So nothing is being recorded. No good deeds, no evil deeds are being recorded. So when you are sleeping, the pens are lifted. When you are in a medically induced coma, the pens are lifted. Okay? So in a coma, the coma is the same as the sleep. So your body is there and your breath is there. The breath has not been removed. So what happens? Why is it that some people, you pump their chest, you put the defibrillator, some come alive and some don't. The doctor has got nothing to do with it. Doctors does not bring a person back to life. Okay, let's get one thing very clearly understood. It all depends on Malakul Maut. It all depends on Malakul Maut. You can have 2 patients. Maf, I'm just looking at the time. I've just got a few minutes. You've got if Malakul Maut is standing there, okay? If Malakul Maut is here, you can do whatever CPR, you can do whatever intubations, you can put whatever oxygen you want to, but the breath and the soul will be taken and that person will be dead. In other instances, Malakul Maut is not there, but the person has stopped breathing. You see, the breath has stopped. In that case, you put a tube in or you breathe into the person's mouth, you hit the chest, you do your compressions, you do your chest compressions, and then the person comes back the person starts breathing again. It just means that Malakul Maut wasn't there. That person's time was not written. That person's time was not written, you see. But if Malakul Maut is there, no doctor can stop it because Malakul Maut has got a register. Not 1 second more, not 1 second less, he will take it away. So when a person is in a coma, the coma is the same as the sleep. The soul is taken away, so the pens are lifted, nothing is written for the patient. But when Malakul Maut comes, the body is only left, and the breath is taken away, and the soul is taken away. Okay, very briefly, in another 1 minute, very quickly, this is what happens, and why the soul is such an amazing thing. You see, this is the body and the breath. Imagine a person is born, okay, a person is born, or in the womb, at 40 days, 40 days, 40 days, then the soul is brought in, okay. But the soul doesn't have to breathe. The soul doesn't need a lung. The soul doesn't have a heart. The soul is, it is this, the only way that I can understand it, if you watch it from Casper the Goat, is that outline, okay, it's an ethereal outline, okay. So the soul comes from eternity, okay. This was the same soul that in eternity, when the souls all submitted, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked, who is your Lord? Everyone, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, they say, Ya Rab, you are our Lord, okay. This was in eternity, negative eternity. Then, meanwhile, the body is here with the breath. The soul is then put into the body, and then at the time of death, the soul is taken out and taken to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and taken in the register called Illiyun. And we all make dua that our name has been the register called Illiyun. This is a good register. The Sijin is a bad register, so we don't want the bad register. We want our name to be in a good register, okay? So when Malakul Maut comes, when the soul is put into the body is just a vehicle. It's just a vehicle. It's just like how you're driving a car, but the driver is important. The soul is the driver. The soul is the one who's driving the body. So the body is just a vehicle. It's just a vessel. Okay, it's nothing more than a vessel. But the body and the breath is life. The breath of Allah, when Allah breathes that life into that piece of sand, that thing becomes alive. Then the soul, the reason why the soul is there, the soul is for accountability. Okay, the soul, we can either make that soul, the soul comes beautifully into the body, but now that soul, depending on how we train it and discipline it and the deeds that we do, that soul can rise higher than the angels or lower than the animals. Okay, so the soul comes from eternity, negative eternity. It comes for a brief period into the earth. Okay, soul comes from negative eternity, comes for a brief period into the earth, joins the body and the breath, and then the soul goes and the Malakul Maut takes it away. And then the body and the breath, once the breath is gone, the body goes into the grave. I hope you can see that. So that was just a very brief electrical storm. Jazakumullah, thank you for joining me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, at another time we can delve into this a bit more, the world of the dreams and the soul and all of that, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.